visit with John's class. My acquaintance with John Kennedy has been long-standing. He came here in, must have been in late 80s, maybe early 90s, to work on his PhD, and he actually got his degree from me. So I was his advisor on his PhD program back in the, I think he finished up like in 1992 or something. He's been at the university a number of years, but he probably told me quite a bit about his background in New Zealand and Texas and other foreign countries like that. So he's had a lot of experience on various kinds of animals in the different parts of the world. And the reason that he asked me to kind of come in today and visit with you is not so much because of my involvement in animal science, because as Jim says, I've been teaching here since 1975. I came out of a small farming ranching operation in central Texas, and went to a small cow college in Stephenville, Texas, called Hallford State, and then on up to Oklahoma State for graduate work, and then immediately came out here. Like I say, it was 1975. So I've had an opportunity to meet thousands of students over those years. Many of them animal science majors, the majority, but not all, because I teach the anatomy and the physiology, which is a required class for all animal science majors, but it used to be required for all wildlife majors, it used to be required for all range majors, but everybody got so many diverse requirements now for their various majors that you don't have an opportunity to move around as much as they did in the 70s. But again, my exposure over the years has been in physiology of various types, to graduate level teaching endocrinology and cardiovascular neurophysiology and respiratory and renal physiology and animal physiology techniques. In those kind of classes, so you get lots of majors. Lots of majors had lots of biology students, actually had some psychology students who were taking that techniques class. Lots of anthropology because they're interested in animal behavior, particularly primate behavior. So I've had quite a bit of experience with different kinds of animals under different settings. But again, the major reason I think that John wanted me to come in here today is to talk about how that is handled on this campus, how animal care and animal welfare is handled on this campus, because it's a big concern area, huh? You probably recognize that. Animal welfare issues are huge issues. Those of us that do research have been branded by many organizations as vivisectionists. I don't know if you've heard those kinds of terms before. As animal abusers. The ranching industry is under constant attack because animals are housed in intensive situations. And so the point is, what is the real, I guess, truth about how animals are managed, particularly on a university campus? And I want to say right from the beginning, y'all, if you're not familiar with this, it's harder to get a project approved using an animal on this campus than it is using a human. So just be aware of that. And I want to run through a few things with you that kind of point out how this whole issue is handled, this animal care issue, if you will. And let me just start off and kind of go through the organization here a little bit. And again, my exposure to this was that I probably was on the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee since its inception. I can't remember for sure if I was on it when it first started, but I think it was, because I was chairman of it for like 20 years. So I've kind of watched this program grow and watched it be built and watched the regulations become more and more and more strict on using not only farm animals, but laboratory animals on campus. And I think if you're not familiar with this at all, you might be kind of surprised. I don't know, Jimmy, should I? No, you need the lights probably for the campus.
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, this animal care program at New Mexico State University is a very broad thing, and it encompasses a number of research units that I've kind of outlined here on this slide. This animal care facility, you may or may not know where that is. You know where the fire department is on campus? It's a small building just to the west. Just to the west. It's got secure access to it. Got to have a card to get into it. It's got a number of student employees working in there, and it houses laboratory animals. Okay, mostly rats, some chickens, occasionally a rabbit, and I was even in there one time inspecting. Y'all, and I opened the door, and I heard those rattlesnakes start rattling, and of course I just backed out of there real fast. I didn't know what was going on in there. This wildlife student was doing a little rattlesnake project, a thermal energy thing on these rattlesnakes. That was a little surprising to me because you come out of Texas like I did. Rattlesnakes will put you on the run in a hurry. So there's all kinds of animals that you'll see in that facility if you get a chance to tour it. College of Arts and Sciences, of course, the biggest college on campus. Large number of biological science researchers over there, not just in the biology department, but also in the psychology department. I'll show you a little bit more about that. The biggest user, of course, of animals on campus is the College of Agriculture, Consumer and Environmental Sciences. I'll show you kind of a breakdown of the protocols. And then, are y'all kind of familiar, John, went over with what the Agricultural Experiment Station is? Maybe a little bit about that, perhaps. During the Civil War, President Lincoln signed the Morrill Act. Y'all probably heard that story. And the Morrill Act set up the land-grant universities like New Mexico State University. Well, a little bit later on, there was another bill passed in Congress called the Hatch Act. And the Hatch Act set up the agricultural experiment stations because this country was growing in the 1870s and 80s real fast. And if you're going to have people coming on like that, you need to be able to feed them. And the people that feed them are these colleges of agriculture, or the producers, and that's where the research comes from, is the universities. So the Hatch Act was set up, established the experiment station. Most of the experiment stations are in the land-grant universities, like the one is here, for example. I'm a 50% agricultural experiment station researcher and a 50% state of New Mexico teacher. So only half of my time is dedicated to teaching. The other half is mandated to do research to benefit the producers of New Mexico, the livestock producers of New Mexico. And then the Smith-Lever Act was passed a little bit later on, around the turn of the century, and it set up the Cooperative Extension Service, where all your county agents come from. And those are the ones that are supposed to take that research back to the field producers from the researchers at the experiment stations. Well, the Agricultural Experiment Station then operates huge farms throughout the state. For example, there's a bull test station at Tucumcari. You probably know about that one. There's a agronomy station at Alcalde. There's like 10 of them scattered around throughout the state, and many of them have animals on them. Okay, so the experiment station has another set of researchers, and then this USDA, that JER stands for the Hornata Experimental Range. Again, I'm not sure whether y'all are familiar with the organization here on campus, but this building right over here, this Wooten Hall, that's the USDA building. The JER, the Hornata Experimental Range, that's their laboratory building. So there's a bunch of USDA researchers in there, and then they operate the largest field station in the United States is right out below those mountains out there. That thing is 300 square miles. That Hornata Experimental Range is 300 square miles of desert range. That's the biggest station that the USDA owns in the whole United States. Doesn't have many cows on it because it's a big desert like that, but large amounts of biological research going on out there, particularly desert ecology of the various animals that live in that kind of an environment. And so they are directly under the regulation of New Mexico State University because the United States Department of Agriculture doesn't own animals. Okay, the universities in those states own them. So any animals out there on that Hornata Experimental Ranch are owned by New Mexico State University. USDA just has to give them to us. So. But anyway, all of those are under this regulatory thing that I'm talking about. Then you said U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service there. The last thing that's shown up there, Dr. Caldwell over here in Knox Hall, her research deals with several of these endangered species. So we've got, you can imagine the kind of federal regulations on those things, in order to be able to do research. Just to be able to keep them in captivity, you can imagine what kind of regulations are required. So that's the kind of an organization that we have here in terms of livestock and laboratory animals and fish and those type of things. You notice you don't see invertebrates up there. I used to have a lot of people ask me, well, who takes care of the crickets? I don't know, but I don't, okay? And the cockroaches. They don't need any taking care of because they're going to be around when the rest of us are gone, probably. Now, last year, y'all, on campus, there were 42 approved protocols. And you said, well, what's that? Well, you can't do a research project on this wood. If you're breathing New Mexico State University air, you can't do a research project unless you've got an approved protocol. Doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't have to be on campus. Any of the satellite institute, any bases, anywhere in the state of New Mexico that an NMSU employee is involved or a USDA employee is involved has to have an approved protocol, okay? And not just research projects. Every one of these classes back here, all these classes that you take that have a laboratory and you're working with livestock, that class has to have an approved SOP. You say, well, who approves it? Well, we'll get to that just a second. But there were 42 of them. And basically, just to give you an idea, there were, on the campus at that time, last year, there were 188 people that were approved. You say again, what's that mean? Well, I kind of outline that for you. You have to be certified. And there's several things you got to get done to be certified, to be involved in research or a teaching project here on this campus, okay? 42 of them total, like I said. And notice that Animal and Range had the most. Fish, Wildlife, and Conservation Ecology, though, had 13. And that includes, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is included in that number. Biology had 12. That's entomology, plant pathology, and weed science. They had 1. And then the Ornata had 1 approved livestock project. That EPPWS, right out below 8 Mountain, there's a research facility out there called the Livestock Entomology Facility. So they do projects out there dealing with wormers, with pesticides to knock the horn flies off of cows, that type of thing. So they have to have approved protocols as well. And basically, again, just to give you an idea, in the wildlife area and then biology, you'll see they always chastise me. I couldn't find a picture of a budgerigar. Okay, so I don't know what that is, but that was to remind me to kind of let you know that. Did you realize that, you know what a budgerigar is? Kind of looks like a parakeet to me, little parakeet. And they keep them up there in that small animal facility I was talking about. Dr. Wright, mostly in biology, Tim Wright, animal behavior kind of guy. And did you realize that those kinds of animals talk different languages? Okay? They've got this dialect or this singing or whatever you want to call it, but that's the way they communicate. And evidently they speak, each group of them may be speaking a little different language. And so what he wants to know is, how do they learn this new language, learning behavior? And when you take one from a group over here speaking one language and put them into a group speaking another language, how much stress is that on? How fast do they learn the new language? Kind of interesting, isn't it? And he does that kind of research by recording their vocalizations. And they get all of these charts on it, and then they can see when the new one learns what the way the old ones are talking and how fast they're accepted into the group. It's really, really very intriguing. But then, the interesting thing about it is, it may relate to how infants learn languages. So they can relate that work oftentimes to the brain areas and the genetics in the brain areas for learning language. Broca's motor speech area, for example, you studied that kind of thing very much. Anyway, really kind of an intriguing area of research. This burrowing owl, Dr. Martha Desmond over in biology, in wildlife, studies those. Those are endangered. There was a nest of them down there at my sheep barn one time, and I had to be real careful not to disrupt, just leave them alone. Don't bother those things at all. There's a bunch of them up around Pan Am Center. And so, yeah, you don't let anybody catch you messing with those burrowing owls on account of their endangered. Did you see where some knothead killed 13 bald eagles up there in Maryland? I saw that on the tube last night. Oh man, they're gonna hang him up by his toes and then put him under the jail. That's good. Anyway, those endangered species, you gotta be careful with them. And then there's a fellow over there in the Fish and Wildlife, Jimmy, get his name. Anyway, he's U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and he puts collars on those lines, and he studies those elk. They have pictures of them, yeah, they'll put collars on them lines and see how they migrate and what their areas are. That's pretty tricky. If you're gonna be working with carnivores like that, then there's some real strict regulations on your health too that this Animal Care and Use Committee is going to be concerned about. Used to be a bunch of these guys up in these Oregon mountains when I first come out here. There was a whole good stuff, and they got the scab mite in them, of course, which was one bad problem. And as soon as they got the scab mite in them, the lions came in and killed them. So I don't think there's a big horn sheep up in those mountains now, but there used to be, and there used to be quite a number of studies going on here out there at the entomology lab on that scab mite was big on. And then you'll see these various kinds of fish and frogs. This is xenopus here. They use those xenopus in biology to produce eggs. And so they study the oogenesis and embryogenesis using those xenopus eggs. And they have to be real careful, y'all, because we have to ensure, the regulators have to ensure that xenopus doesn't get loose. Because if he gets loose and gets out here in the Rio Grande, he just takes over. Next thing you know, you don't have any bullfrogs or anything left. So that guy's a pest if he gets loose. So they don't let those things loose. But they're really good research. That's that silvery minnow I was talking about that Dr. Colleen Caldwell does service work on. Most of the work that's done on these mice, though, here on this campus, if you're interested in that type of thing, is related to mosquitoes. There's a couple of biology guys up there. One named Zoo, XU, John Zoo, Emo Hansen. Have y'all had these guys in classes from? Y'all know Kathy Henry? She's one of the world's experts in the dengue virus. Teaches a class in, I think it's going to be in the wider world, on the emerging diseases. Okay? I bet you she's all over this mosquito-borne thing, sexually transmitted thing. What's the name of that thing going on right now? Zika virus or something. That thing may stop the Olympics, I don't know. Anyway, there are people on this campus doing that kind of research on those mosquito-borne diseases, particularly malaria. They do a lot of research on malaria, here, dengue virus, yellow fever, all of those and what they use those mice for is the blood medium. And so they have to anesthetize the mouse, put him on top of the mosquito's cage, let the mosquitoes feed off of him, and then they bring him back, or sometimes they euthanize him. But anyway, most of the mice studies are used as blood meals for the mosquito research that's been done that's extremely important for human health on these mosquito-borne diseases. Okay. One project with horses. We got a lot of horses on campus, right? Only one research project that has been approved so far this year, or last year, but there's a lot of classes, and those classes all have to have approved protocols as well. Okay, but the actual research project is just one Dr. White was doing. Sheep, one of the major experimental animals on campus. 6 projects currently going on in those areas, and then cattle projects, 8 of them that have been approved. Now again, if y'all are not familiar with this, the Department of Animal and Range Sciences at NMSU is the largest landholding department in the United States. We've got not just these animals you see here on campus, but beside that Ornata experimental range that's 300 square miles, is another 100 square mile tract that's under the direct supervision of the Animal and Range Science Department. That's where we do our desert cow research. And so we've got herds of Brahman, we've got herds of Brangus cows out on that ranch. Then we have another ranch at Corona, New Mexico, just outside of Corona, which is on the other side of Carrizozo, okay, above Ruidoso up there. And it's got 30,000 acres on it, and we've got another 250, 300 cows and 300 ewes on that place. Then we've got a feedlot facility right up in the north east corner of the state in Clayton, where Yevon has spent much of his time doing his research up there. So my point is that we've got these huge ranching operations that the university owns. Those are NMSU lands supervised by the department, and therefore all of those projects on those cows have to be approved by the protocol. Okay. Now let me just talk a little bit about these regulations. I won't bore you with too many details on these, but just to show you the extent of the regulatory requirements on using animals in research. Okay. Notice that we've got lots of different regulatory agencies, one of which, of course, is the university. The university has got its own policies. And then we've got federal policies that we have to deal with, okay? Now, basically, all use of animals in research, or it's mostly research, but pet stores, okay, those kind of places. Rodeo is going to come under it one of these days. Right now it doesn't. Exhibitions don't come under these regulations, but they ultimately will, okay? And that's based on United States federal legislation called the Animal Welfare Act. That was passed in 1966 and then amended. Okay, so the Animal Welfare Act, what it did was it put the regulatory authority for developing all the requirements and regulations for the use of animals in research, in teaching, and in sales, pet sales, that type of thing, on the USDA. So the Secretary of Ag is the person that's responsible, okay, for administering the Animal Welfare Act of 1966, okay? Then it was amended in 1970, 1971, y'all. Y'all know what that is? The National Institute of Health. Y'all kind of heard that maybe. And then this thing right here, the Public Health Service. If you're not familiar with that, your tax dollars, y'all. Your tax dollars. A pretty good little chunk of it goes to the Public Health Service. And the Public Health Service is charged with trying to improve human health, okay? Well, the Public Health Service is like a big umbrella thing, okay? And then anything under that, or the agencies under that, are called the National Institutes. Now, you've heard of the National Heart Institute, right? The National Cancer Institute, and the National Diabetes, Digestive, and Kidney Disease Institute. So they're different institutes. And you can imagine how much federal money goes into those things. And even, oftentimes I forget to say this, but even the VA, the Veterans Administration, comes under the Public Health Service. And man, they do a tremendous amount of animal research. Okay, particularly trauma. How do you deal with this traumatic injury in the military? But anyway, the National Institutes then had to develop, under the Public Health Service, they had to develop a set of guidelines to govern the use of laboratory animals in research related to human health. You with me? And so they established their own agency, and it's called the Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare, OLAW. Okay, now that just kind of sets the scene. Now what we got is we got the USDA that's actually responsible for the Animal Welfare Act, okay? But then we got the Public Health Service that has its own set of institutes doing research, but it also has a granting agency. You with me? So that for example, on this mosquito stuff that Emo Hansen does, and Kathy Hansen, they've got NIH grants. So they get Public Health Service money from the National Institutes to do the research. Any of y'all working on those projects? No? Some of you on that big training grant up in biology. There's another big training grant in chemistry. Those are NIH grants. This campus gets, last time I looked, $25 million a year in National Institute money, Public Health Service money, to train students, okay, and then to do research related to human health, okay? Well, Public Health Service says, all right, y'all, if you're getting our money, you go to work on our rules, okay? Therefore, you are gonna operate under the Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare's guidelines if you're gonna do research with our money, and if you don't, we're gonna come get our money. Okay. Yeah, and they don't just come get, let's say a researcher gets a $500,000 grant to do a research project, and he's not treating the animals right, okay? And OLAW hears about it, and OLAW will hear about it because whoever chairman of IACUC has to report to OLAW on the use of their money. And if OLAW decides that that researcher is abusing those animals, they walk on this campus and they take, not that $500,000, they take that $25 million. And you talking about the fur hitting the fan, y'all, when administrators see $25 million walk out of here. This is big deal, y'all. These regulations are big deals, okay? In the Public Health Service, regulations are the strictest that we have. Therefore, if the campus is getting money from them, we're gonna operate under their rules. Y'all with me on that, okay? I'll show you a little bit about that. That's the Public Health Services policy that they set up in 1979. All animal-using grantee institutions are required to have a committee to maintain oversight of its animal care program. The institution must also submit a statement assuring compliance with the current guide for the care and use of laboratory animals. That's called your assurance statement. MSU has to get one approved every 5 years, and it's not easy to get it approved. And if they want to, they just send their inspectors out here and see if you're doing the things the way they want it done. If not, they don't give you an assurance. You don't get Public Health Service money. Okay? It's a pretty well regulated system. Now, the regulatory requirements for using animals in any kind of research, particularly on the MSU campus, certainly the USDA Animal Welfare Act has been amended several times, 1985, but most recent. It's kind of interesting. It specifically excluded birds, okay, rats, mice, particular genuses, okay, farm animals, because farm animals were being done for production research. But y'all, if you decide that you're going to use a pig as a model for a human research study, because their digestive tract's just like ours, their skin is even better in terms of burn victims, taking pig skin and put it on people, it's an even better model. If you're going to do that kind of research, now you're under the Public Health Service. Pig's no longer pig, pig's laboratory animal. So it changes. Same with the sheep. If you're using, here's what I used to do, y'all. I used to. They were trying to figure out down here at William Beaumont Army Medical Center, y'all know, down there in El Paso, if a pregnant woman could take calcium channel blockers while she's pregnant, that's a high blood pressure deal, right? It lowers her blood pressure. So what they needed was ewes, pregnant ewes, singles inside of them, with on a certain day of gestation. And so I would load these, you had to get them pregnant, load them up, take them down there to William Beaumont Army Medical Center. Okay, now all of a sudden we're at a VA hospital, right? We are under their rules, their guidelines. They would take the ewe, I stood around there and watched them times. There'd be a veterinarian in there, but there'd be 2 or 3 surgeons, human surgeons, standing around in there. And they'd open that ewe up, put her under all kinds of anesthesia, open her up, take that fetus out, still hooked up to the umbilicus, right? And lay it up on the chest of that ewe. And then they would infuse that drug into the ewe, the calcium channel blocker. Watch what happened to her blood pressure, but they were mostly interested in what happened with that cardiovasculature in that lamb. Okay? What was it doing to the heart rate and the blood pressure and all that? So they were using that ewe as a model in VA Public Health Service institution. Therefore, we were under the guidelines of the Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare. You with me? End result was that they showed that the drug was safe for women to use when they were pregnant. At least that was the initial stage. You got to then go to human studies, of course, after that. And they figured that out pretty quick, so they switched over to marijuana after that. They infused cannabis into that ewe and watch what happened to the fetus. That's not a good thing at all, Larry. Okay, that's where that's the way they got the kind of data they have now on use of cannabis during pregnancy. Okay, not good on the fetus at all. But anyway, that gives you an idea of the kinds of work that the Public Health Service operates under. So a farm animal can become a laboratory animal real quick, depending on the kind of work that's being done. Public Health Service policy of 1979. See, so we're operating under the Animal Welfare Act that USDA regulates, and then we're operating under the Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare that the Public Health Service regulates, and then we're operating under what the Board of Regents say. Okay? If nothing goes on here that the Board of Regents doesn't want going on. Okay? And so our policy, the Board of Regents says that New Mexico State University supports the use of animals in research, education, and as agricultural resources, providing that the usage is reasonably expected to advance knowledge about human or animal welfare. It is the policy of the Board of Regents to meet or exceed all federal and state standards and regulations applicable to animal use. So what the Regents told us was, we're operating under OLAW's requirements because they're the strictest. Okay, that's the big deal. That's what we're operating under here on campus. You notice that both of the major regulatory agencies, both the USDA and the Public Health Service, they say that you're going to have an institutional animal care use committee. It's going to be appointed by the institutional chief executive officer, which in this campus is the president or chancellor, I think they call him now. And then with assurance from the institutional official. So the president named the vice president for research as the institutional official. So that's the person that is ultimately responsible. But the committee is the one that is responsible for regulate or for ensuring that the regulations are followed. Okay, and so that's the committee. That's the committee on campus. And as I said, I was a chairman of that for probably 20 years. And when I, Gibbon said when I became department head, had to give that up. And the chair then went to Dr. Shauna Ivey. Most of y'all know her. She's a ruminant nutritionist in the Animal Marine Science Department, doing a very good job as chairman of that committee. But the makeup of that committee is kind of interesting. You may or may not know the people. But notice that the requirements say you're going to have some scientists, you're going to have some non-scientists, then you're going to have some people not even affiliated with the university, don't know nothing about nothing. They just know that they don't want animals to be abused. Okay? For many years, there was a local clergyman that was on it. Okay? For a while, one of the local rabbis was the unaffiliated person. Right now, the unaffiliated person named Randy Myers. I don't know that person in what his job is on campus. This lady right here, Evan White, she is the university veterinarian. Okay, she's part-time for us and part-time at full-time at a local laboratory. This non-scientist, a fellow named Scott Ischenbrenner, has been on the committee a couple of years. Was not an employee of the university when he came on. Now the president hired him as the guy that's over all the university lands. So he is an employee of the university now, but he is unaffiliated with this department. Okay. Or with animal research. The scientists, again, y'all probably know what Dr. Wright in biology, Dr. Loost in animal and marine sciences, and then Dr. Caldwell in fish and wildlife. The compliance officer, she's not only responsible for IACUC, she's responsible for the IRB, which is the Institutional Review Board, which is overall human research. You may not know that human research, they review 300 protocols a year, the IRB does. But every time you go into a class, and an instructor wants to do a survey, that's got to be approved through the IRB. That's human research, okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be a biological type study on human. And so she's over all of that. The biosafety officer that's responsible for all of these labs, that are like level 3 labs, that's Joanne Dupree. So she's ex officio on IACUC. And then let's see, institutional official is Dr. Chaitanya, but he actually lets Dr. Vasquez do most of that kind of interaction with IACUC. He's an engineer. Chaitanya, he doesn't know much about biological research, but Vasquez does. Vasquez is a real good resource. Okay. Charged with doing two or three things. That committee is every time. All these protocols I'm talking about are classes that you want to have. That's where the protocols go. They develop the protocol application, the IACUC does. You fill it out, the committee evaluates it, looking specifically at animal welfare is their main interest. If it is approved, then you can go ahead with research. Boy, you don't want to start on one list until you got that approval of, okay? Then they evaluate the animal care program of the university twice a year, okay? And then they make sure that the animal care program is meeting all of these federal regulations. Every 6 months they do that, okay? Inspect all the facilities every 6 months. Then they got to submit a report through the IO that then submits it to OLAW. You might wonder, now what happens if you have a complaint? You know, you see something that you think is on campus, that you think the animals may not be treated appropriately. And when I was department head, I'd get a few of these. And they would come, invariably, everybody thinks you're supposed to contact the provost or something. so the provost would call down here and say, we got this thing going on, and I just had to tell the secretary, y'all don't even worry about that. You just need to call Dr. Ivey. If that is a valid complaint, IACUC's in charge of that, and they will do the investigation. I'll give you an example. I had an occasion one time, a big NIH project, right? Big NIH project, and the animals, a couple of them died, and the investigator thought that it was a problem with the water system on campus and couldn't get any traction to get that fixed, and filed a formal complaint. Well, I got no options. This is NIH money. Formal complaint has been filed. It's filed by the PI themselves. My only option is to call the Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare and say, project's on hold. We are starting the investigation. I'll let you know when we find out. And boy, it's a big wheel from then. And just to make a long story short, the university very quickly recognized that they weren't taking care of the filters right coming into that building, that was the cause of the death of those experimental animals. They saw the gravity of the situation. If OLAW decided that was worth coming down here and doing a full evaluation of it, and it was fixed within about 36 hours. It's amazing when they start listening to that $25 million leaving, how fast you can get water filters fixed around here. It's amazing that you have to do it though, and that you got to call in that kind of horsepower, but it was the right thing to do. The PI did the right thing. It's fixed, and to my knowledge, they haven't had any problems with it. So the way that it's handled, if you or anybody else thinks that there's an issue, it goes right straight to Dr. Ivey. And there's only two people on campus that can stop the project, y'all. President can't stop the project. He don't have no horsepower. Provost can't stop the project. Dr. Ivey and Dr. White, those are the only two. The chairman of IACUC and the institutional veterinarian. And they can put the red tag on the door and everything stops, okay? So as I said, it's a highly regulated affair. Your responsibility, if you're the PI, is you got to make sure your people are trained, right? You got to ensure that they're all certified. They're not going to do a project unless they're certified. It's just not going to happen. And then, y'all, in about 2009, I had been signing this federal form saying we were in compliance for like 3 or 4 years before I really realized that we were absolutely not in compliance. We did not have an occupational health and safety program, okay? We didn't have a training system for training people in animal worker safety. Not the animals, we're doing a good job on that. Animal worker safety is so good. This, man, we got all worked up right there. I'll show you that. That's OLAW's guide right there. And it talks about all of these occupational health and safety issues for the workers themselves. That's the strictest. That's the one that we go under for anything, particularly that's got NIH money. If it's livestock, would it be that's used in a production setting, y'all? There's another set of guidelines, and that's called the Guide for the Care and Use of Agricultural Animals in Teaching and Research. That's been put together for us managing like production research units on campus, not the ones that are for headed toward human research. Just as strict, but different set of requirements because you're dealing with a huge animal okay? Different space requirements and all that. So we got two different guidelines, okay? But then back to the point I was mentioning a while ago, this safety thing for the workers. Can you imagine this old kid in wildlife decided to do this rattlesnake project? Of course, as soon as IACUC saw that, they did not approve it. No, you're not going to do that. It's too dangerous. So he actually came to the meeting, and we said, okay, now the only way you're going to do this is if you got somebody that's with you. The wildlife people train you on how to catch these things, and if there's an EMT out there with you, we figured that would kill it right there, because we weren't going to let him touch the rattlesnake unless there was an EMT out there on the White Sands missile range with him. And he says, I'm an EMT. He shot us down right then. Got his approval. But that's what I'm talking about, y'all. Working with big animals, y'all, most of y'all know animal science, been around large farm animals. They will hurt you in a New York second. They will kick your teeth in, and you won't. Everybody thinks some horses are just so sweet and gentle. Yeah, they'll turn around and bite you. You like that, them dog? Okay? This is a big issue. It's a big issue. Elizabeth takes a lot of animals. You still wildlife, aren't you? Yeah. Wildlife. But think about this, y'all. Ever since you've been born, 3 or 4 months, how old was our girl when she got her tetanus shot?
No idea.
Okay.
My son was
About a year old, you start getting him tetanus. We all. If you've never watched an animal die of tetanus, you don't want to see this, but you don't want to get it yourself. And it is endemic on this campus. If you've got horses anywhere around, you're going to have tetanus around. They're like a reservoir for them. I've had, I don't know how many lambs die from that, and I've had one student. He didn't die, fortunately, we caught him quick enough. But he got tetanus, lost 40 pounds, locked his jaws up. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. If you're going to do work on a farm animal, if you're going to do work on this campus in the Animal Marine Science Department, you're going to have a current tetanus vaccination and proof of it. If you don't want to do that, you just sign a release and say, okay, I don't care if I die of that stuff. Okay, it's like, on you then, not on us. So that's part of this animal worker safety program. It is required. It is required by the Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare and the USDA. You got to have a program. We got a program now. We got a program. Requirements, that's the Environmental Health and Safety Office. Wonderful office here on campus. These people are really good. Everybody's got to take HAZCOM. If you're an employee in the university, secretary, everybody's got to take HAZCOM. And if you're working with farm animals, you've got to take the animal worker safety class, right? Then you got to do medical surveillance. You got to get an exposure assessment. You fill out a health questionnaire. Then you go up and consult with one of the ladies at the health center up there. And then they decide, okay? They decide what you might need. They're the ones that say, no man, you need a tetanus shot. See? So it's these medical questionnaires and forms up at the health center. They recommend a vaccination program for you. They can make medical recommendations for you before IACUC will let you be approved. Okay? They tell us, the medical people tell us, okay, this person has filled out all the forms, signed all the waivers. If they don't want to do something, they can work on that project. Is that okay? And think about this, y'all. For many years I was chairman of the Radiation Safety Committee also. And I operate, I'm the largest user of radioactive materials on campus, my lab is. Not the extremely deadly ones, but iodine-125, it's a penetrating gamma. And so, my students that work in there, mostly ladies, right, what we got in here? We only got like 6 or 8 males and species in here anyway, don't we? And my statement to them, and the Director of Environmental Health and Safety tells me, you can't tell them that. I said, I don't care, I tell every one of them that. If you're working with me in that lab, and I tell them, you get pregnant, I want to know before your mama does. Because you're not working around this radiation. Okay? I mean, we wear badges and we know we're not getting exposed, but I'm not going to stand for that, to be responsible for potential damage to a fetus. Now, we'll find something else for you, but not in there in that lab. I tell them the same thing if they're working down there at the barn. I got 2 like 20-year-old girls working down there at the barn with me lambing seed. Okay? If you're pregnant, you cannot be in the lambing barn. You just can't do it. Sheep will get chlamydia. All you gotta do is get a little bit of that chlamydia in a pregnant woman and it will trash that fetus. They can't be, sheep get Q fever, will trash a fetus, okay? How many of you love the feral cats on this campus? Huh? Not particularly? I know some biology don't because they kill the birds. They say, oh, they won't kill the birds. Unless they're hungry. Well, they ain't hungry. They feed them right down here by the barn, this group. They kill them because they're killers. They're predators. They like to kill them. Anyway, they carry a particular disease called toxoplasmosis. So don't you know if you're pregnant ladies, you're not supposed to clean the cat box? Well, these feral cats are everywhere out here. And they was defecating and urinating all over my haystack down there, and they aborted every 16-month-old ewe lamb we had down there because they got toxoplasm. How did I know that? I sent the fetuses off to the vet lab. They had toxoplasm in them. I've had chlamydia down there. So that's the reason, that's all part of this animal worker safety program. You have a right to know. And if we don't tell you and something happens, who's liable? That is gross negligence, right? University's liable. University's not going to be liable. If you work in university, you go through so many trainings, you get sick of it. But that's what it's about. And that animal worker safety, this occupational health and safety program is very, very important part of animal work on campus. Not just the animal, it's the human that's doing the work, okay? We got that instituted in 2009. If you get on that environmental health and safety webpage, really nice. They'll show you all the trainings that you can get. How many of y'all actually work on campus? Some of them. Anybody? Labs? Anybody? Okay. If you do, you'll have to do some of those, if not all. Okay. So if you want to do animal work on NMSU campus, you got to get certified. You got to complete the occupational health and safety program. Then you got to contact the IACUC chair and get the protocol forms, and then you fill them out, and you hope that you get approved, and you can start doing the research, okay, or the teaching. Okay, that's it. That's like a real quick overview of the program. Did y'all notice somebody told me one time, "Oh, you talking 50-minute bursts, don't you?" I guess I do, don't I?